Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, apparently he didn't get enough time on the bed making those sheets smell like him yesterday because he's right back in there today. And I'm surprised because even though it's a bit chilly, I don't think it got up beyond 50 degrees today. It's still brilliantly sunny out. And I thought that would have attracted his attention. But not when there are sheets that need to be made to smell like a little cat. But he did show up yesterday, so maybe he'll show up again today. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the intro, and we will be right back. So, yesterday, we got started on the topic of grocery prices because, yes, they are high. They are considerably higher than they were 5-6 years ago. Certainly, COVID had a lot to do with the escalation. But, COVID's not here anymore, and the prices have not gone down. They have continued to rise because that's in the nature of things. Regardless of what prompts a rise in pricing, generally, once it hits that high point, it goes up, not down, even if the conditions that drove it up in the first place are no longer a factor. So we have a lot of economic forces that have propelled these prices up and are keeping these prices up. And I think that the conversation we are having today about high grocery prices, my goodness, a few years from now, we may look back on this time and say, oh, are you kidding? We thought it was bad then. So whenever a change is forced on us, we are compelled to make a change. It's always easier if we have a little advance warning so that we can gradually move into those changes rather than having them thrust upon us and feeling like we are not in control and we are just victims of circumstance, which never gives anyone a very good feeling. But also, behavioral changes that are made consciously, voluntarily, with a goal in mind, in small increments, tend to stay with us longer than sudden, just toss your life up in the air changes that we've had no control over. So I think it's basically in our best interests to start looking at these things now, make changes gradually over time. I am looking at this in terms of altering my grocery buying. I'm probably not going to alter my food or meal planning or that sort of thing. I'm probably just going to find ways to see if I can buy the same things I like eating, but for less, maybe cut out some waste, cut out some frivolous purchasing. But I am not about to suddenly live on, I don't know what, oatmeal and French fries for the rest of my life. Yeah, you kind of get an idea of what I think low-cost food is. Oatmeal, French fries, running the gamut here. I would rather feel like I'm making choices. I'm keeping the things I want to keep, eliminating the things that have made their way into my food shopping, either out of laziness, carelessness, or just habit. I want the changes to be mindful. I want them to be gradual and painless because I do not like painful changes. So that is the whole focus of these videos. How can we do this without suddenly turning our lives upside down? I know I could save money if I baked my own bread, but I'm not doing that. I know I could save money if I went over to some other kind of diet and ate food I don't particularly like, but I'm not going to do that. I want to find a way to have it all, to enjoy everything I am enjoying now, and just making small modifications along the way. Things that I can justify to myself. Why am I buying this? It's high in sodium, it's bad for me. Let me choose to eliminate it from my diet for the sake of maintaining my low sodium levels rather than feeling like I'm compelled to do it because of the high prices at the grocery store. So that's my theory, and I am inviting you all to join with me in this because already today, just after yesterday's videos, there were a host of wonderful suggestions from people who are already shopping smart in the comments. So we have the collective wisdom of the entire community to draw on. And this is a really phenomenal resource. So yesterday we took a look at my cabinets. And today we are going to take a look at my refrigerator. So let's get started. Okay, so just like we did this yesterday, I thought we would start top to bottom, left to right, and go through what I've got here. So this is the freezer. My refrigerator is not large, so this is it. This is pretty much my freezer space. And starting at the top shelf here, again, going left to right, there are a couple of Ziploc bags of seafood. Shrimp, scallops behind the shrimp. It's a decent amount, probably 2 or 3 pounds of both in there. And then moving over, now we're getting to the parts that I don't want to share with you, but obviously I'm going to. Next up, we have a package of pre-made cheese tortellini. Yeah, that's expensive, and it's not really good for me, and it's highly processed. But is it in my freezer? Oh, yes, it is. I'm not going to try to hide it. Behind that, we have a box, and that's that box that's standing upright, of pre-made Chinese dumplings, pot stickers. Those are pork dumplings. Again, highly processed, much more expensive than the ingredients warrant. But yeah, it's in there. And then as we move, and we're continuing going to the right, you see a baggie of pre-made frozen cheese ravioli. So you can see what my weakness is right now. Again, highly processed. This is high in sodium too, and much more expensive than I really need to have in my budget right now. And below that, the package that the ravioli is resting on is a 2-pound package of mixed vegetables. That's corn, peas, green beans, and carrots. This is the store brand. This is not sufficient quality to be cooking this up and serving it independently as a side dish with a meal. But what I get this for is vegetables when I'm making soup, because they're already pre-cut for me, and that particular bag, half of it is going into soup. This weekend I will be making that up because I picked up a package of barley, which is cheap and nutritious and no sodium. So half of that's going in with some barley and some beef that I will come to in a moment, and that is going to be soup. So I'm feeling a little proud of myself for that because I don't do a great deal of cooking like that. As we move over to the far right side of this top shelf, you can see the packages of beef that are in the front. And that's just, I picked that up at Aldi's, I think a week ago, and thought I'll do something with that. And that's when it occurred to me beef barley soup would be a good use for that meat, for the vegetables, and for the barley. Behind the beef are several packages. I believe it's a total of 7 packages. So it's packages and boxes of frozen vegetables, 6 of which are spinach. One is lima beans, so it's not as if I have nothing but spinach in my freezer. I have almost nothing but spinach in my freezer. And I like spinach, but also when I buy frozen vegetables, I have no interest in buying the frozen vegetables that are highly adulterated with sauces and whatever. And I do like the spinach. So as far as that goes, by the way, I will say this, that spinach in the frozen food section is probably the least expensive vegetable you will find there. But it just happens to be my favorite, so lucky for me. Down at the bottom shelf, starting on the left, you can see some containers of pomegranate arils. And my local grocery store had them on sale, and I was able to pick these up for approximately the same price I would have paid if I had purchased whole pomegranates and cut them up and seeded them myself. So I thought that was a good buy. I've got like 9 of them in there, so I kind of got carried away. But still, I'm absolutely going to eat them because I bought them at the very end of pomegranate season. And pomegranate season runs usually like September or October through January or February. So I bought them, I've got them, I will in fact use them with glee. But I don't think I'm going to stockpile them next time they're on sale because I subsequently discovered that I could get frozen pomegranate arils in one of my local stores, and so I can buy what I need when I need it. Prior to that, I had not seen pomegranates, so I thought this was the only way I was going to get them, was buy them in the winter and freeze them. No, somebody is selling them pre-seeded and frozen. Lucky me. And finally, we come to this white wire container at the end of the shelf, and that's where I have fish. There's cod, tilapia, salmon, and lobster tails. So yeah, I had to confess to the lobster tails. There are a lot of things I do buy that are expensive. That would be one of them. I have been actively working on reducing the amount of goods in my freezer. So that's why it's looking semi-naked. But wait till you see the refrigerator. So next, we're going to take a look at the freezer door. Now, again, top to bottom, left to right. The left side on the top shelf is prescription medications that I am not taking on a regular basis. So these are things that are available to me by prescription, but I take them as needed. I keep them in the freezer to extend their shelf life. And the rest of that shelf, everything else on that shelf, is ice, either small plastic reusable ice cubes or ice-impregnated cloths that you take out in the summer on very hot days, ice sleeves for drinks, ice bags, etc. So that is sort of the medical shelf. Prescription meds and ice. If we go down to the bottom shelf, left to right, we have butter, 2 containers, and frozen concentrated orange juice, 2 containers. And those of you with sharp eyes may notice the top of a little baggie peeking up over the butter boxes. And that contains coffee. It's instant coffee, single serving. Someone gave it to me as part of a gift some time ago. And I froze it. I keep it in the freezer because, yeah, what if I run out of coffee? You're like, oh my goodness, what a tragedy. So I keep that there. That's my just-in-case coffee. So as you can see, my freezer is not what anybody would call overloaded. And there is a reason for this. I have been actively seeking to eat out of my freezer, mostly because you have to do this food, it's easy to think that food in your freezer will last indefinitely, but no, it won't. Anything in your freezer, and this is just a general rule, if you want to know about specific items, it's easy to look them up. But a general rule is if it's in your freezer, you should still use it within a year. And that is what I'm trying to do. So this is coming at a pretty good time for me because I've been trying to do that for a couple of months to sort of scale down what is in the freezer. I'm also trying to scale down what is in the refrigerator, but that is for an entirely different reason, which we will get into after we've had a chance to peek at the refrigerator, which is coming up now. So this is my refrigerator. This is just basically what it looks like pretty much most of the time. Again, top to bottom, left to right. And let's start in the back this time. Those red cartons are a protein drink called Atkins Strong. And I mentioned this when I was talking about weight loss, and that was a while ago. This was recommended to me by my dietitian, who actually put a good deal of effort into finding me something that was high in protein and low in sodium. And that was it. And it's worked out very well for me. So I have 3 little cartons of that. And next to the Atkins are 2 cartons of heavy whipping cream. And those are pints, both of them. And I use them as coffee creamer simply because I prefer heavy cream in my coffee. Yes, it is fattening, but I like it. And if I'm going to make coffee at home instead of going to Starbucks, I don't want to feel deprived. You know, I'm already deprived if I can't go to Starbucks. So let's move forward on the shelves and look at what's in the front. And left to right, we have a butter dish, so butter is there. I pay a little extra for my butter because I get it in half sticks, just because that allows me to keep the butter fresher by leaving it in the freezer longer. So I get my butter on sale and freeze it, as you saw from the freezer. So I don't feel I'm overpaying because, again, the sale price will offset that. But I do use butter. I do not like margarine. So, besides, I happen to think butter is probably less harmful than all of the chemicals in the margarine. So yeah, a little more in terms of calories, but a little less in terms of absolutely unpronounceable added ingredients. And the other green refrigerator container next to the butter is cheese. And this is just, you know, your basic Kraft singles, which is some sort of, I don't know, partially hydrogenated cheese food product that is squirted out, rolled flat, and encased in plastic. I don't think anybody would actually consider that real cheese, but that is what I got. And I should probably give it up, but I'm not quite ready to do that just yet. The little black jar in front of the cheese is caviar. And yeah, like the lobster and the scallops, I have to admit that some of the stuff I buy is expensive. The reason the caviar is over on that side of the fridge is because it's crazy high in protein, although it's also crazy high in salt as well. But that is my go-to if my protein levels start getting a little too low, because in a few seconds, I can get my protein levels back up where they should be. And besides, it's tasty. And that, by the way, is not really expensive caviar. That is black lumpfish caviar. I would imagine that little jar probably costs, somewhere between $10 and $15, which I guess is expensive, but not when you consider how far caviar goes. All right, that's the end of my justifications. Next up, we see a carrot, just a lone carrot sitting on the shelf. Behind the carrot is 2 containers of Icelandic yogurt. It's called skyr. And although, wait a minute, I should share this with you.
Yes, it's called skyr in Icelandic, but it's called hyr in Swedish. By the way, if you're not ready to blow out a candle when you say that, you're not pronouncing it correctly. So yeah, Scandinavian yogurt. I was raised on that stuff and I love it. Next up, we have one of those pomegranate arrow cups. So as you can see, I am using it. And that will be my go-to for anything I want to throw fruit on. If I want to throw fruit in my oatmeal, it's there. If I want to throw some fruit on a salad, it's there. I will use those pomegranates. I swear I will. And as we move over to the right side of this shelf, we see two little plastic tubs of fruit cocktail. And these are the sort of products that are packaged for children's school lunches. And I got them on a lark one day, and I have been very negligent about using them. There were 4 cups of this in the package. I probably bought the package about 6 months ago, and I have only used half of it. So I'm going to have to make a point of using it. You really can do a lot with a little cup of fruit cocktail, including just take the lid off and eat it. So I'm going to have to work on that. Now on the right-hand side is the yogurt that is embarrassing. It's not like the Icelandic yogurt, which is healthy. This is just regular, generic grocery store yogurt. There are additives in it. There's usually a lot of sugar, but that's sort of my snack food yogurt. If I want a treat, that is my yogurt. That is another thing I have to work on taking out of my diet. So let's go down to the next shelf. Left to right, we have 2 dozen eggs. And the reason we only have 2 dozen eggs is because ordinarily I go to Aldi on Monday and I will buy 4 dozen eggs at Aldi, but we're coming up on Monday. So yeah, we're running low on eggs. There are also 2 clear glass refrigerator dishes, like the butter and cheese dishes on the shelf above. And they are in the back of this shelf. One of them has bacon in it, and the other has that Danish ham product that's very much like Spam. I opened it up, started using it, and what's left is in one of those refrigerator containers. And by the way, that was actually a very tasty product. I'm not going to buy it again because of the sodium content, but I can't complain about the taste. It's really quite good. In front, we have a container with a red lid, and that has tuna salad in it because I made some tuna. And as you know, I have plenty of tuna in my cabinets. Now, as we move over closer to the other side, there is a small plastic tub of chicken liver. That is something that doesn't appeal to everybody. I like it, so I'm fine with chicken liver. But it is very high protein. It's very high in iron as well. And it's very inexpensive. The downside of this is if you have high cholesterol, this is probably not something you want to eat too much of, because organ meats in general are very high in cholesterol. And now we move over and you can see my collection of antique berry dishes. And by the way, they actually do live in my refrigerator, whether they are empty or full, because I always want to make sure I have space in the fridge for berries. Berries, they haven't been very good at the store lately because we're at the end of the season. So as you can see, most of the berry dishes are empty, and the one that has something in it actually just has a handful of mushrooms in it. And now as we go to the bottom shelf, there is a package of fresh spinach. I don't use the vegetable crispers at the bottom, whereas I'm sure you guessed from the carrot on the top shelf, because when I put something in there, I can't see it, so I don't use it and it goes bad. So that's why the spinach is sitting on top. And I will use that because I love spinach. So let's move over and take a look at the refrigerator door. All right, beginning top to bottom, left to right again. The little cheese dish in the upper left-hand corner has nothing but prescription meds that need to be refrigerated and 2 little discs of wax that I use to lubricate sewing thread. So yeah, I don't put food in that little container, but we can ignore that and move on. As we go down to the top shelf, what you cannot see because it's hidden by that little shelf rail is 2 wheels of Laughing Cow cheese and a small jar of minced garlic. Now, the Laughing Cow cheese, once again, is a processed cheese product. I should really stop doing this. I know I should, but that's a battle I'm going to save for some future date. As for the small jar of garlic, I have no idea how long it's been in the refrigerator, and I should probably just throw it out. And if I really feel I need minced garlic that badly, it's very inexpensive to replace it. So I should do that, and hopefully I will. And next we have 2 jars of preserves, the lingonberry and the fig, which we saw in the kitchen cabinet. So yes, I do use them. They are getting used. Moving over, we come to a jar of barbecue sauce that is sitting on the top shelf and just, it's taunting me. And we will see why in a moment. And next to that, we have my coffee can. I keep my coffee in the refrigerator. It keeps it fresher, but I keep it in a little can there. So that is the coffee. Down at the lower shelf, this is condiments mostly. So it's mustard and ketchup. And then next over, we have salad dressing. And behind that, a rather large jar of Chinese duck sauce, because I do like Asian food. And in order to get a really nice duck sauce, I had to buy enough to last me a whole year. And I am using it, so it is working out. And then there's a bottle of lemon juice, which I rarely use. If I have a bottle of lemon juice in my refrigerator, odds are it's been there for 2 years untouched, but I do use it occasionally. And next to the lemon juice, there is a tube of something called BioFreeze that is a topical anesthetic. So if you have like joint pains, it's made from holly, the same holly in Christmas wreaths, and it's actually a very good topical painkiller. So I thought I would just explain what that is, because some of you might actually be looking for a safe, effective topical painkiller. BioFreeze, that's it. I keep it in the refrigerator because it feels better cold. And then next to that, there is a bottle of sweet pickle relish. And behind the relish is another bottle of barbecue sauce, which goes back to what I was saying about the bottle of barbecue sauce on the top shelf. I did not realize I already had a bottle and went out and bought another. And the problem is I do not use barbecue sauce often enough to justify having 2 bottles of it in my fridge. So that was my bad. That was a totally unnecessary purchase that I made because I didn't know what I had. And the last item here is a jar of Miracle Whip, and it's actually Miracle Whip Light. But again, that's, it's a lot of chemicals. That is a highly processed food, but I'm not giving it up anytime soon. So now you have basically what I have in my cabinet, what I have in my refrigerator. But I do want to mention one of the reasons my refrigerator and freezer are so empty is because I have been considering getting a smaller refrigerator. And let me show you a quick picture of it, and I imagine you'll be able to tell right away why I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I would love a little retro fridge, but aside from that little aesthetic preference, I have been seriously considering scaling down, because with a large refrigerator, I accumulate stuff. And I will buy things that are already there simply because I don't know it. I will let things go bad in the refrigerator because it's far in the back and I don't see them. So I'm not aware of their presence. I think I would do better with a smaller refrigerator. Now, the simple truth is, when I first went out on my own more than 50 years ago, I had a small refrigerator. It looked very much like that retro fridge, and I was fine with it. I didn't feel deprived. I didn't feel like I didn't have enough room for everything. None of us did. That refrigerator, the one that I had 50 years ago, was probably a good 10 or 15 years old. It was in an apartment. I liked it just fine. But frankly, back in the 50s, that's what people had. And I don't mean just one single person living on their own. I mean families. 6 kids, that was your refrigerator. You know, you were working with this and you were fine with it. So I really do think that's something I want to do. Just because I think it would work out better for me. And besides, those retro fridges are so cute. So, now that you've had a chance to see everything, as you can tell, overall, I think I'm doing pretty well in terms of healthy food. There is not a lot of stuff that I have beyond that. I have a loaf of bread in the bread box, and I have some fruit in a bowl on the counter, as well as some white potatoes and some sweet potatoes that are probably going to be mashed up with that carrot, and that'll be nice. But I'm not overly dependent on processed food or prepackaged food, but I have it. And that's one of the things that I need to look at while I am looking at economizing on my grocery bill, because those things are more expensive than regular whole food. And whole food is better for you. So why spend extra money to eat less healthy food? And that's how I am approaching this. Now, for the rest of the month, I am not going to go out of my way. Of course, it's in my head, so who knows if that will impact what I'm doing. But I'm not going to go out of my way to try to economize on my grocery spending. What I would like to do instead is take this month to really look at what I am buying, what is costing me money, what I am attracted to in the store, and why. Because on the surface of it, I'm not seeing it. There's very little junk food. And when I spoke about my grocery spending last month, I did also include my restaurant spending in that. However, my restaurant spending last month was $45 including tip. So yeah, that's not major. It's not as if DoorDash, I've never used DoorDash ever, like in my life. And I will call and have a pizza delivered perhaps 2 or 3 times a year. So that's not where my spending is. Obviously, it would be better if I wasn't ordering pizza 2 or 3 times a year. It would be better if I wasn't, going out to eat once a month, or as in last month. No, actually, they were both takeout. So if I wasn't buying takeout, bringing it home with me twice a month, my grocery bill would be lower. But am I cutting that out? No. Because first of all, it's not excessive. And second, remember what I said about not making this painful, not just tossing my life up in the air, picking up the pieces and saying, no, we are going to be brutal about this, because that's the best way to discourage yourself from continuing. If you want to make changes like that, you are almost guaranteeing your failure, and you are giving yourself every reason in the world to stop and not stick with your plan. I want this to be pleasant, not painful, but I want it to be thoughtful. I don't want to feel like I'm going to the store and reducing my grocery spending simply because prices are high. I would prefer to reduce my spending because it's better for my health and well-being. That I can get behind. Something abstract like you're spending too much money, especially since I go into the store and I buy my groceries using my debit card. So I don't even really see the money leave my pocket until the next day or sometimes 2 or 3 days later when it catches up with my banking statement, which comes every morning, by the way. So I do check frequently. But still, that disconnect between card and cash does make it very abstract for me. It doesn't make it very real. So I'm going to save money. Oh, no. When I don't even realize I'm spending it in the first place, that's not working as a good incentive. But my health, that will be a good incentive. So that's what I have for you today. As I said, we're going to stick with this because I think it's important. At this point, all we're doing is just looking at my cabinets, and I hope that by looking at my cabinets, you are looking at your cabinets. And by looking at my foolish spending on ridiculous stuff, that it's helping you to look at yours too, and to understand you're not alone. I know I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who buys ridiculous stuff at the grocery store. So I am hoping this will help us move into future videos where we can start looking at concrete strategies for lowering our grocery bills without giving up quality, giving up flavor, without having to go to the next town over and spending whatever we saved on groceries in the gas tank. How we can make this work without turning our lives upside down and making the whole concept of feeding ourselves look like an agonizing ordeal instead of something that could be a fun experiment. All right, Audie did not come out and see us. I'm sorry about that, but maybe he will next time. So thank you for being with us. For those of you who follow Just Chattin', 8 o'clock New York City time this evening, and we're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all next time, and in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.